And we're going to build a great Iron Dome for missile defense around our nation. Other countries has it. Israel has it. You know, Ronald Reagan wanted this many years ago, but we didn't have the technology at that point. But now we have the technology, so we're going to do the great Iron Dome, and it's all going to be built in our country.
Trump is at the end of a long list of stupid people pretending they're smart.
And the worst president in the history of our country, who is cognitively impaired, in no condition to lead, and is now in charge of dealing with Russia and possible nuclear war. Just think of it. We would be in World War II very quickly.
Right-wing military hawks and their Republican circle jerks love to call scientists nerds, and then they turn around and beg for new technology to kill people. And they'll tell you that Reagan's Star Wars could have worked, like dumb Donnie will profess his latest idea has legs.
We're going to build a great Iron Dome.
I mean, think about it. Trump says he'll build an Iron Dome in space that will protect us from Russia and China. But Tiny Fingers couldn't even scare Mexico into paying for a wall that can't keep coyotes out.
So if you don't get an actual check from the Mexican government for $8 or $10 or $12 billion, whatever it will cost, how are you going to make them pay for the wall?
Now Trump is touting Space Force like it's the Jetsons.
Meet George Jetson.
But you know what Space Force does? It's here on their website. Space Force organizes, trains, and equips personnel. It's basically an HR for NASA, which, by the way, has been around since Fat Donnie was failing in high school. I can see why Republicans love another National Guard. Just in case there's another war, they can follow in George W. Bush's footpath and sign up there instead.
Now that Space Force is up and running, I agree with your leadership. You want this very badly, but I agree that the time has come to create a Space National Guard as the primary combat reserve of the U.S. Space Force.
But all you right-wing boomers who watched Star Trek and stood in line for Star Wars, then went home and masturbated to Obi-Wan instead of paying attention to physics and math classes, here's a tidbit for your rarely used brain without worms. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I love it. So we're going to do that. Space Force has been very important. Very, very important. When I did that, the other people came in, they wanted to end it, and they were just hammered because people realized how important. We were getting just destroyed in space, and now we're leading. We are leading with all of the major metrics in space. Russia and China were killing us.
Trump is talking so much out his ass, we're going to need an EPA superfund to clean it up. But for starters, we already have a ballistic missile defense system today. It's called a missile interceptor, which can, on a very good day, knock out maybe 5 missiles, which is a problem we'll get to in a minute. The U.S. also had an airborne laser program that was canceled a few years back. It was the size of a 747, which is probably why they canceled it. Another Star Wars proposed weapon was an orbiting electromagnetic railgun, which may sound badass, but since its power options in orbit were limited, it was canned. When you add up the simple truth, something that Russia realized, it would always be easier and cheaper to shoot more missiles than the system can effectively stop. Bottom line, you can't have unlimited satellites. The lasers can only shoot so far, and you can only aim so good. No matter how robust it is, it will always be easier to make more missiles to overwhelm it. And the irony is, with an Iron Dome, you'll get more missiles aimed at you because of it.
Banning into space, a layered defense to protect the country from nuclear devastation. U.S. spy satellites would watch the world below, detect Soviet missiles blasting off, compute the position and speed of each missile, alert battle stations in space, on Earth. The first response, space-based kinetic energy weapons fire high-speed projectiles from hypervelocity guns, intercepting enemy missiles as they are boosted through the atmosphere. Popped up into space, Earth-based nuclear-powered X-ray lasers fire their radioactive rays.
Reagan was a sucker for proposing Star Wars, or maybe he knew that and thought it would frighten people into submission. And 40 years later, it's still a pipe dream. But that doesn't stop stone-stupid people from falling for yet another defense contractor con.
The acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Nerds could have told Tiny Fingers that what he was proposing would never work, but he doesn't care. He just likes to say Iron Dome. It gives him a stiffy. And of course, he won't address the trillions it would cost to develop and implement, even if you could. And the software, forget about it.
Do you really believe that the enemy would attack without provocation, using so many missiles, bombers, and subs, so that we would have no choice but to totally annihilate them?
1 minute and 30 seconds to impact.
General, you are listening to a machine. Do the world a favor and don't act like one.
40 years ago next month, there was a Scientific American article on simple things one could do to make your ICBMs resistant to Ronnie's Star Wars. One of the criticisms of Reagan's Star Wars came from the software side. The required software was far more complicated than anything that had ever been developed, as in ever. Back in '84, it was estimated to require hundreds of millions of lines of code. And today, that number is in the quadrillions, which is 1,000,000 times 1,000,000 lines of code.
Donald Trump Jr.'s on cocaine.
I said lines of code, Junior. Take it easy. And sure, AI could help, but that assumes the software would be bug-free, which begs the question, if we already have that technology to play Star Wars, how come we can't get AI to synchronize traffic lights first? You know, so we're not all pissed and ready to kill the person in the car in front of us.
But one of the leaders stood up and said, so does that mean he wasn't paid? He owed us billions. Does that mean if we don't pay you, you're not going to defend us against Russia? I said, that's what it means.
See, here's what Fat Donnie doesn't understand. These NATO countries he belittles, we need them more than ever.
No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want.
What a dick and what a dangerous person. Our allies have advanced intelligence, which has saved our asses many times. Take the Manhattan Project, strapped to the gills with rocket scientists from Europe. They could have worked for Germany instead. And after 9/11, they went to war, a stupid war, simply because we asked them. But of course, Trump and white MAGA want us to turn our backs on these allies because some of them are brown and black, and they don't speak American.
But people are coming from the Congo. Last night, we had 20 people come. Welcome to our country from the Congo. Where do you live in the Congo? We live in prison. Oh, that's right, they released them from prison. I don't think they wanted to ask what they did, but they're coming in from Africa.
But here's the truth. The real danger isn't nukes falling from the sky that Space Force or whatever video game these guys pretend is real. It's the terror cells trying to develop and use dirty bombs or biological weapons against us.
The reality is that the terrorism threat has been elevated throughout 2023, but the ongoing war in the Middle East has raised the threat of an attack against Americans in the United States to a whole nother level.
And our allies provide information that saves American lives. And guess what? They don't send us a bill.
You're saying you're delinquent. Yes, let's say we're delinquent. Will you defend us? I said, absolutely not. I took so much heat from the fake news media.
Trump, MAGA, and the Republicans want the 1950s back, but that's not happening. Because odds are it won't be Russia or China who attacks us next, but instead a terror cell. And the Jetsons can't stop them. It will be our good friends and allies. That is, if we still have good friends and allies.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Damn right. This isn't their Republican Party anymore.
Trust me.
Shut the fuck up, Darren.
Who's with me? Oh, yeah, the lie.
Indictable.
Out of sheer morbid curiosity, I'm allowing this freak show to continue.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, right.
Tick-tock.
We're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.